What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts, Norman Side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Side Guys to the Ted Side, and we're here recording on a long weekend. Happy Memorial Day to everybody who celebrates that and honors all of our fallen veterans. So, you know, good day to do a podcast too, I think, right?
That's a natural transition, sure.
I think so. I think so. If you can think of a better transition, then I'd love to have heard it.
Pat Tillman.
That's it. That's just two.
That's all I got. That's all I got. That's all. Yeah, it's just salute to you, Pat.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Low key though, actually, in all seriousness, one of the better statues in sports. His statue outside the Arizona Cardinals stadium is awesome. And as a Heat fan, let me tell you, those can go very, very wrong.
I was about to say, considering all the other statues that have happened in recent memory, it's like, yes, his statue with the flowing hair and everything, like, yeah, they actually did that one pretty well, because I think we can all agree that Dwayne Wade statue could definitely be torn down and redone again.
It's not Dwayne Wade, it's Black Santa Claus. How many times do I have to tell you this?
I don't even think it's Black Santa Claus. I don't even know what it is. Like, that's how bad it is. I can't tell who it is. It is so bad. It is real bad.
It's Black Santa Claus, you know, if he's had a really rough night.
I don't even think that does it justice.
Hitting the eggnog a little too hard.
It's a bad statue overall. But so Pat Tillman statue, very good for sure. But yeah, I mean, we sort of in the last couple of episodes, Tab, we've been diving further into fantasy football because, as we mentioned, here recording on a Memorial Day weekend, and so with Memorial Day, that means we're coming close to the end of May, and with it coming close to the end of May, we're hitting the summer months, and in the summer months, this is a good time to start thinking about your fantasy football draft strategies and how you want to start building up your, who do you like as sleepers? Who do you like as buzz? Or I guess who do you hate as players that you want to label as bust? I guess is probably a better way to put it. It's like, who are guys you're targeting in the later rounds? How you're sort of building out, your overall positional rankings and all that stuff too. So yeah, this is going to be one of our last episodes. And then I think we'll probably be transitioning into our yearly head coaching series, hopefully within the next episode or two there. But yeah, in today's episode, we're going to dive into make it or break it players. So these are guys that's like sort of like this is your last chance to really prove whether it's like, can they be reliable, not just in a fantasy sense, but also in a NFL sense. It's just like, just the way the career has gone. It's been very up and down. Maybe it's all been down. Maybe it's been up, and just they're landing in a new situation. They need to sort of, continue that trend or whatever it is. But just like, yeah, there's a lot of situations out there where it's like players are sort of in a situation where they sort of need to make sure that they're really bringing it this year. Otherwise, fantasy managers for sure may look in other directions now. But yeah, definitely other teams may be like, okay, I think maybe this is just a, supplemental piece to our roster, depth piece, whatever it is, but no longer that possible starting recognition for some of these players. And so that was the purpose of today's episode.
Break me off a piece of that Klondike bar. No, that's not it. Hold on. Break me off a piece of that fancy feast. No, what is it? I'll get it.
I hope you do. I really hope you do. But yeah, so today's episode is fantasy make it or break it player. So Tad, with that sort of in mind, who's a guy that you think really needs to hit it hard this year? Because yeah, if it doesn't happen this year, there's a good chance it may never happen.
Okay, this is actually like immediately when we came up with the idea for this episode, my mind went immediately to this player. It's nothing that I have against him personally, like as a person. I literally know nothing about him as a person other than he's an idiot when it comes to, performance enhancing drugs. But it's just like, I think, so often we focus on guys in the first round who bust just a couple years out or who are not living up to expectations a couple years out. And we are so quick to jump on them. and, just be like, oh, man, like a year and a half goes by. This dude sucks. Like, all right, well, we busted. Screw it. Move on. I'm not just talking quarterbacks because this guy is not a quarterback. It really feels like he should be thanking his lucky stars because of everything that has surrounded his situation has provided so much cover for the fact that he is massively underwhelmed given where he was drafted, because it's shocked. I knew he was drafted early, but he went way earlier than I remember. And that is Jameson Williams, the wide receiver with the Detroit Lions. Do you remember at what spot he was taken in the 2022 draft? It's okay if you don't. This is not.
I know he's a first round pick.
He is a first round pick. So not only is it a first round pick, I'll shorten the field for you. He was a top 15 pick.
Wow. Okay. I want to say maybe he went 14.
You were close. He went number 12 overall. And get this. That was a trade up by the Lions, who gave the Vikings their third round pick. Now, also, at the time, we're getting too into the weeds, but the Vikings had the 46th overall pick in the second round. The Lions had the 34th overall pick. So they swapped second, and then the Lions gave them a third round pick. So it wasn't like a massive haul by any stretch. So you didn't give up any future picks, but still, you moved up to grab this guy. And I think it is very easy to say in the 3 years he's been playing, he is not justified A, being taken in the top 15, B, trading into the top 15 to take him. Because, Amir, if I had to ask you, over under this season, did he have over or under 1,000 yards receiving?
Under.
You were so close. And I'm so sorry for doing this to you. This is why you hate me. He finished the season, I kid you not, with 1,001 yards.
Also barely surpassed it.
He barely did. And that was his first time in his career in the NFL he did it. And here's the thing, though, is so much of that production was front loaded into the season. If you look at the Lions' last 8 games, he had under 5 catches for that entire streak of the last 8 games. And if you're wondering, like, okay, well, how front loaded was he? He must have been killing it in receptions in the first 8 weeks then, or 9 weeks with this weird new schedule. Can we even call it new anymore? It's like, what, 3 years in now?
Longer than that.
And they're going to change it again. I hate them. But anyway, point being is, even before that, he's only went over 5 receptions once the entire season. So, like, game plan wise, I can understand. Okay, yeah, you're our guy to stretch the field.
I will quickly interject, though, but it's like the style of play that Jameson Williams has. I don't think he's a reception type of match.
Okay, right? That's fair.
He's the deep threat, so it's like, he gets a lot of receptions, gets a lot of yards. Very Deshaun Jackson-esque, where it's like, he may have like 4 receptions, but he'll have like 120 yards or something like that. So that's more of like, the reception thing doesn't bother me.
So, but then I bring you back to the yards, where he barely by a yard,
no, you're right.
A single yard, broke 1,000
right.
yards. Barely
Absolutely
did that. And if you look fantasy-wise, the only weeks he was actually fantasy relevant, I know this because I actually traded for him during his hot streak, because he had a 3-game hot streak where, exactly, he was getting 3 catches for 100 yards and touchdown. And I was like, you know what? We're going to roll. It was like being at the craps table. It's like, he's hot. Let's keep going, baby. Then I rolled like I don't even know how to play craps, even though my dad's taught me like 1,000 times. But like, you roll the dice, it hits the wall and you're like, oh, the hot streak's over. Because he is, as a fantasy wide receiver, 100% completely touchdown dependent. That's why I bring in the receptions. It's not a Wes Welker type where, Wes Welker didn't score a touchdown, but he had 8 catches for 9 yards. That would be quite the Wes Welker thing. He had 8 catches for 90 yards. Okay, that's a solid like outing for a flex player. He is the type where it's like 3 catches for 60 yards. And if he misses on that touchdown, that was a bad start. And so I think by the way, I haven't even touched on all the PED suspensions, which I mentioned before, the injuries that keep popping up. Like, I think that this is a huge year for him to kind of prove, okay, I'm here to be the T. Higgins to Amon-Ra St. Brown's Jamar Chase. Because I'm not expecting Jameson Williams. I'm not, telling him like, hey, overtake St. Brown as the number 1 receiver. That's just not going to happen. But guys like T. Higgins, guys like Tyler Lockett have proven, even if you're not the number 1 overall guy, you can still be a very productive receiver. And consistently productive fantasy receiver. Jameson Williams has not shown that whatsoever. And on top of everything, my biggest offseason departure of the entire NFL offseason, Ben Johnson leaving the Detroit Lions. It's not even, and by the way, I'm including players. Notice how I didn't say coaching offseason.
Yeah.
Including players, that is the biggest change that I'm fascinated to see how that affects this offense. So there are so many question marks surrounding Williams this offseason that I think he's well worth a late round flyer. But if he does not make it this year, to me, he just goes from a potentially draftable wide receiver to a pretty solid waiver target, maybe week 4, week 5 for the rest of his career.
I think solely because he plays in an offense that, I think the biggest factor, like you said, I think without Ben Johnson, is just how are people going to view the rest of his offense now? Because obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown's still going to go the first 2 rounds. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, they're still going to get drafted within the first 3 rounds as well. It's everybody else now. So it's like, how are we going to view Jared Goff? How are we going to view Jameson Williams? How are we going to view Sam Laporta too? Because you have to remember, Tad, Sam Laporta had a nightmare season last year. Like everybody was taking this guy as the
and
first.
By the way, we warned you guys about that too. Both of us warned everyone about that.
And so he was taken in most leagues as the first tight end off the board, and he did not deliver on that at all. So you wonder whether he'll have a bounce back. So just that whole offense is going to be so intriguing as far as how it's going to look and how these other supplemental pieces are going to play. So that I do agree with you 100%. That's like Jameson Williams. He was struggling before when he had Ben Johnson and they were finding a lot of success on offense. And, we were seeing the resurgence of Jared Goff and he got the big contract from Detroit and all that stuff. But it's like now shifting to a new OC, do they adjust their offense? Do they lean more in the running game and then they'll air it out every so often? So it's like you may get like a flash in the pan type of game. So it's like maybe once every 4 weeks or 5 weeks, Jameson Williams will have a sensational game. You'll clamor to the waiver wire to pick him up. And then after that, he'll go on a cold streak again. So just like, is this what we're going to see? Or are they going to lead more to the passing game? Give Amon-Ra St. Brown a little bit of that reprieve as far as like, okay, you don't have to be our main guy in the passing offense. We'll lean on Jameson Williams. We'll lean on the, hopefully the reemergence of Tim Patrick in the wide receiver position as well. They drafted the guy out of Arkansas, Tesla or whatever his name is, right?
You are asking the way wrong guy on that.
Forgot his first name, but yeah, I know the last name is Tesla. And then
Laporta, Tesla. I don't know.
No, it's Tesla because there's 2 A's at the end there. And it's also like capital T-E.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Ronnie Bell is a Lion. Did not know that.
Yeah, good riddance. I hated that guy. Former Niner. And I'm so glad it is former Niner with Ronnie Bell specifically. But I do agree. I think it's just going to be so interesting to see whether he could sort of live up to those expectations that you're sort of laying out where it's like
top 15 pick. 3 years ago,
pick, and it's like, can he be that T. Higgins type of player? Can he be that Calvin Ridley type player to when Julio Jones was in Atlanta? It's like those sorts of things. It's like Devontae Smith and AJ Brown's like, can they make that sort of tandem as well?
Keep going. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Yes,
that's a good one. That's a solid one.
Austin Collie, Reggie Wayne. I don't even know if I'm getting my
Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne. What are you doing, Austin Collie?
We've talked about this. I miss prime Marvin Harrison. When I got into football, Marvin Harrison was like a very slow slot receiver. And I was like,
you could have gone with the next one then. Reggie Wayne, T.Y. Hilton. That would even have been a better one than Austin Collie. Of all Colts receivers.
No.
All Colts receivers, you went with Austin Collie.
I don't think T.Y. and Reggie ever played together.
I'm pretty sure they did. Reggie Wayne had a long career.
All right.
So I know they played together.
Well, I'll look into it. Also,
how many years? That I don't know, but I guarantee you that they played together.
Break me off a piece of that applesauce. No, damn it.
But yeah, 100%. Like Jameson Williams just really needs to sort of find that success with the Lions now, because this is a very critical time for the Lions on offense overall. And especially look at what happened to them last year where they went one and done after being the number 1 seed. So it's like they have a lot of things, going for them as far as a lot of pressure, right? So it's like, this offense definitely needs to find success, and whether that's through the passing game, whether it's through the running game, Jameson Williams really needs to find a way to separate himself for sure.
T.Y. and Reggie Wayne overlap for 2 years. So props to you.
2 years. Yeah.
2 years. 2012 to 2014. Also, I forgot that Reggie Wayne tried once to be a Patriot. I believe that was the year after they also signed Ocho Cinco.
That seems very accurate. Great pick. I like that pick for sure. I'm going to give you another guy, Tad, that very much had high investment capital from the team that drafted him, higher than Jameson Williams. And I think just, hit the ground running. But ever since then, it's been a severe drop off. I think just a very epitome of a guy that just like, is it finally going to happen? Is it finally going to happen? Is it finally going to happen? And so far, it hasn't. So that's why this year is a very critical year.
Trey Lance.
I think the boat has sailed on Trey Lance, unfortunately.
If you say Anthony Richardson, we are ending this podcast right now.
It is not Anthony
I will
Richardson.
leave the studio.
I don't think either of us actually picked a quarterback for this episode. So
no,
yeah,
I don't think we did, actually.
Yeah. So mine is actually tight end Kyle Pitts. I think this is a very easy
we're
pick
doing
here.
this again. Okay.
Yeah, this is just one of those players where it's just like, very similar to what we've talked about before in the past with Eric Ebron, where it's like, you saw the potential. It's like, is this going to be this finally going to happen? Is it going to be this year? Is it going to be this year? Then finally he moved on from Detroit, found success with your Indianapolis Colts for 1 year, and then what the hell again after that. But with Kyle Pitts, he found success in the 2021 rookie season. You remember, Ted, this guy was drafted 4th overall.
If I'm not mistaken, he was the highest drafted tight end of all time, right?
He still is the highest drafted tight end of all time. Yeah.
And probably they will remain. He's been so inconsistent. That record's going to remain for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, you think about tight ends being drafted in the top 10, you're like, I don't know if that's a good pick. But yeah, here's a top 5 pick as far as a tight end selection there. So yeah, I do agree with you. I wonder if a lot of teams are going to look at that and be like, I don't know if I want to invest in top 5 pick, because yeah, Kyle Pitts has definitely been a situation where it's like, I don't want that on my team.
I mean, the only thing I could think of a tight end deserving to be a top 10 pick is like, just like absolute athletic freak coming out of Penn State. That's just a total monster. But, like what player like that exists?
Let's slow your roll first, right? Because you just brought up a quarterback that is going to be playing with him.
Come on, man.
All right. So let's ease up there, buddy boy. So yeah, you look at his rookie season with Kyle Pitts. He was, like I mentioned, drafted 4th overall. Had a good season, 1,000-yard rookie season in his first year. Led the team in targets, led the team in receptions, led the team in receiving yards as well. Made the Pro Bowl that year. So it's like you thought that this is like, okay, 4th overall, made a ton of sense. This is a jumping off point. This guy's going to have an amazing career, right? But also you have to throw it to the fact here, Tad, this was before the team had both Bijan Robinson and Drake London on the team. So it's like this guy was the sole offensive playmaker for that offense. And so it's like, it makes sense. But then you look at the next year. Unfortunately, the rest of his career just has not panned out. You look at the next season. He misses 7 games in 2022. He suffered an MCL tear in his right knee, which forced him to miss the final 6 games of the season. So he wasn't able to build up anything there. Then you look at his past 2 seasons. So in 2023 and 2024, he has failed to score more than 5 touchdowns in either of those seasons. In his career overall, Ted, he has never scored more than 5 touchdowns in any of his 4 seasons in the NFL so far. He has yet to go over 600 receiving yards in any of those past 2 seasons. In the past 2 seasons, he has gone only over 600 receiving yards. In the previous 2 seasons, outside of his rookie year, he just hasn't been able to live up to the standards there. Really just interesting thing with him was just a lot of the talk was just that they need stability at the quarterback position. That's why they paid all that money for Kirk Cousins. That didn't solve anything. Now the hope is with this season here, they got Michael Penix under center. The hope is that, he could sort of bring some more life to this offense. But I think the bigger factor for me here, Tad, Kyle Pitts is in a contract year. So if he doesn't find a way to perform at the same level, even at the same level like his rookie year, like that, I think is like the baseline for a Kyle Pitts this year. It's like you need to get at least 1,000 receiving yards. He finished 6th. He finished 6th among the position there in that season as far as fantasy concerned. Outside of that, he's never finished inside the top 10 in any of the other 3 seasons. His highest after that was the 12th in 2023 among tight ends there. So it's like, yeah, you look at this, and so it's like if he wants to catch in with Atlanta or in free agency, he needs to absolutely have a sensational season this year. But like I said, I think with the additions of Bijan Robinson and Drake London, Darnell Mooney had a sensational season for them last year, and then he got the contract extension, so he got hurt as well. So if he comes back healthy, that's going to detract from him as well. So you just wonder whether it's just like he's just going to be one of those great what-if players where it's just like, if everything came together, how good could this guy's career have been? Or, maybe like I said, very much like I brought up at the very beginning here, where it's like maybe he'll be like Eric Ebron, where it's like the first team, but just for some reason, it didn't work out. he'll sign somewhere on a prove-it deal like the Colts or like somewhere else.
And we don't need him anymore. Hey, get out of here. Give my boy Warren all the targets.
Like I said, we'll wait and see on that one there. But I think like I said, just wherever he signs somewhere else, the new scenery, new head coaching staff, they put more emphasis on using him in the offense. Maybe then he'll find a way to sort of blow up and realize the potential of being a 4th overall pick. That's the biggest thing that hurts the most with Kyle Pitts. Like, this guy was such high investment as far as draft capital, and just hasn't realized that potential at all. And so that is the big thing here. But yeah, I think he is one of the biggest candidates to have this year, as far as a make it or break it candidate for me, especially fantasy wise, as well as like career wise too in the NFL.
Okay, you're gonna need to fact check me on this, but for our YouTube listeners who was like, why did Tad react that way? Is because I believe it was actually a similar 4th overall pick. I remember this because it was the first draft I ever really, really got into and started my draft obsession. And because I was trying to remember his name and it hit me right before you handed it off to me. Was at the time when the Falcons took Kyle Pitts, it wasn't seen as a bad draft move or if anyone disagreed with it, it was a huge minority. Most people were like, excellent pick. Dude's a freak athlete, can't miss. Like, you can do something with them. Mm-hmm. It reminds me so much of this draft. You'll probably remember him as soon as I give you these hints. And again, fact check me while I'm talking. The Seattle Seahawks, I believe in 2008, took a linebacker out of Wake Forest named
Aaron Curry.
Aaron Curry, exactly right. Aaron Curry was seen that year as like the can't miss prospect, like safest, prospect in the entire draft, maybe like, limited ceiling, but he's at least going to be a good player for you. Aaron Curry fucking sucked. And this is like so reminiscent. If they're both 4th overall picks, that's honestly eerie, because a lot of the same talk was, a lot of the talk around Kyle Pitts was similar of, freak athlete, does everything right, coachable kid, blah, 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 like all the draft cliches you can throw out there. And it just didn't work out for whatever reason. Now, Aaron Curry, I believe, went on to actually have a semi-decent NFL career. He stuck around for like 7 or 8 years. Here's my thing with Kyle Pitts, and this is a very disturbing trend I noticed looking at his stats, is yes, while we're just going to ignore that year he got hurt, because that's just obviously an outlier year. So the 3 actually, quote unquote, full years or almost full years he played, it's not the lack of targets that led to the lack of production. He had his receptions were almost half of his targets, which shows me that he's always been involved in this offense. He's just not been able to produce, which bad offense, system or not, you should be able, if you're getting 90 targets, you should be putting up more than 47 catches.
Yes.
Like that's players' fault as well. It might, now I'm not putting it all on Kyle Pitts, but he does have his fair share of blame to shoulder. And so I completely agree with you, because look, here's why I was like, not again. Look, I have a cat. My cat's a dumbass. By my calculations, he's got maybe 5 or 6 lives left. Possibly 4. I don't know. It's kind of hard to keep count when I'm not home.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts is down to his last life. Like, he's going through 8 of them already, because like, I swear to God, we did this episode last year and I think Kyle Pitts was my pick.
It probably was.
And it seems like ever since his rookie, well, not ever since his rookie year, because obviously, as you pointed out, his rookie year was great, but ever since his sophomore year, we're all like, what the hell happened there? It's just been like, oh, Kyle Pitts, time to prove it. And I'm not, again, completely blaming him, because they're kind of Alex Smithing him with all these quarterbacks. But at the same time, and you shout out his stats, I think last week with Michael Penix Jr., where it was like 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions?
Something along those lines.
Something like that. Not terrible, not terrible, but like, I'm still a little iffy on Michael Penix as like a long-time starter.
We still don't know. Yeah, exactly. It's such a small sample size. We have no idea what he's going to look like.
So I'm actually completely with. I don't even know if it was a prediction, but I agree that ultimately I see him moving on to another team, and I think that will be interesting. I think he needs to choose his next team very carefully, because if he goes to, let's say, and I'm just pulling this out of my ass, let's just say George Kittle retires, and Kyle Pitts signs with Shanahan, who has some Atlanta ties.
True, very true.
That would be a fascinating fantasy storyline next year. Then all of a sudden I'm like, "Ooh, Kyle Pitts, you got me back." Now if Kyle Pitts is like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the Buffalo Bills. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done. So it's just, if it's not clear already, I think he's toast in Atlanta. But like you said, that's the whole point of make or break a year of, all right, then you have one more chance to prove me wrong. Otherwise, my decision on you is made up.
Yeah, Tad, looking at this, I was looking up the Aaron Curry draft. It was 2009.
Oh, it was bad. Hold on. It was Jason. Was that Jason Smith, second overall year?
That was the Jason Smith second overall. But I wasn't looking at all the positions. I was looking specifically at defensive line. It was not a very good defensive line / pass rush in the first round specifically. Lots of misses here.
Was that when the Browns took that fat ass out of Baylor, Phil Taylor?
Who did the Browns take this year?
It was like 14.
No, Browns did not have a first round pick. Oh no, sorry, they took Alex Mack, so that was a very good pick.
Oh yeah, that was a good pick. Wow.
But if you look at the defensive lineman, Dad, I'll run through this really quickly. Right, so number 3 overall, Kansas City took Tyson Jackson.
Oh,
LSU. Do you remember that? That didn't work out.
Yeah, no, I remember that. He went
before
Seattle
Aaron Seahawks took Aaron Curry 4th overall, so you got that right out of Wake Forest. Then you go to. He actually had a decent career. B.J. Raji, defensive tackle with the Green Bay Packers. That was all right.
Pick 6 in the NFC Championship.
He did. Buffalo drafted Aaron Maben out of Penn State.
Oh,
he did not have the greatest career.
Oh, that one hurts.
This one did pan out. Brian Rockpo with the Washington then Redskins, now Commanders, obviously, but he worked out.
Real quick side note on this is the Lebitard show, just which I am an avid listener of, just broke it down where there's like some commercial with him where they're like 4-time All-Pro Brian Rockpo. He was never an All-Pro, so they lied about his accolades.
Nice.
Anyway, keep going.
Would you consider Brian Cushing a pass rusher?
I consider him like a Luke Kuechly type.
Okay, then yeah, that wouldn't count. I think Larry English though was a pass rusher.
Oh my god, NIU, baby.
Out of NIU, yeah, exactly. Drafted by the then San Diego Chargers.
Shit.
That did not work out.
That is a throwback.
Because Robert Ayers
succeed Sean Merriman.
Do you remember Robert Ayers out of Tennessee? He was drafted by the Denver Broncos. Yep. He did not work out all that well either. Let me see if you remember this name. Perry Jerry, defensive tackle drafted by the Atlanta Falcons.
Out of Ole Miss.
Yeah. I don't think he really worked out all that well either.
He didn't do shit.
He finally worked out with the Green Bay Packers. They were able to double up. Clay Matthews.
He was a Packer? that I did not know.
You forgot that? Yeah, that was his first stop. And then you had to close it out. Evander Hood by the Pittsburgh Steelers out of Missouri. Very last pick for him.
It's Ziggy Hood. Put some respect on his name.
Yeah, but
he actually stuck around for a while.
He stuck around for a while, but yeah, overall, just the first round, and that as far as pass rushers and defensive linemen, not all that great in the first round.
Oh no, man! I wonder like how much more knowledge I could have if I didn't have all this useless, draft knowledge from 20 years ago. Break me off a piece of that Chrysler car. No, damn it!
This is the Michael Orr draft as well, so Baltimore took Michael Orr overall.
Sued his family, by the way.
And Ted. Probably the most famous Colts pick, running back Donald Brown was drafted.
God damn it, Donald! Whoa, hold on. Who did the Niners take? Hold on, no. Oh fuck! I think I actually know. It was that the Opati draft?
No,
the Opati Anthony Davis draft?
Nope.
Ah, damn it! 08? I have no idea. Crabtree?
09. This is 09. But yes, 09? It was Crabtree.
Okay, there we go. God, I'm such a nerd.
All right, let's move on to our other candidates that we have here. Do you have another guy that fits the make it or break it type of season?
Oh, I do.
All right.
This one was kind of tough because technically I think he's already kind of broken it, but yeah,
okay.
And I'll give him a bone fighting on a new team for the LAFB network. I'll be somewhat positive on him. I am interested to see if Najee Harris finally.
Wow. Najee Harris. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, and this isn't just make it or break it. Like, in my opinion, this is make it or break it in fantasy. But, buddy, I'm only going to talk about you this offseason this one time. This one time. Okay? So, personally, I think he's already broken it. I don't think he's any good. I think he is a fantasy trap door for reasons I'll get into in a second.
Okay.
But the combo of him with the Chargers extremely, and everybody saw this coming with the Roman Harbaugh offense, of that run happy attack. I mean, they basically revived the career of J.K. Dobbins, like single-handedly.
Yes.
So I'll be interested to see if they can repeat. Like, there's just enough interest. It's like it's like Westworld. on HBO. Like season 1 was so good. Like Najee Harris's rookie season, I was like, oh shit, I was so wrong in this guy. And then the sophomore season or the second season was like, okay, there are some good parts, but like overall, like that kind of sucked. It's like, all right, third season, this is where I'm either sticking with it or I'm done. And I'm just turning off my TV. And this is Najee Harris's Westworld season 3. I'm hoping it goes better than Westworld season 3, from what I've been told. I still have never seen it. But is that the one where Aaron Paul like gets involved?
I think so. I don't know.
I haven't watched it. It just went off the track so bad. But look, Najee Harris is not like the worst running back in the world. However, I did find some interesting stats. Last year with the Steelers, he ranked 16th in missed tackles per attempt and 27th in yards after contact per attempt. So for people listening, I know that's kind of hard to take in and like, what the hell does that mean? It basically means if you hand it off to him and expect him to get 3 yards, he's going to get you the 3 yards. He's just not going to get much else. And that's always been my frustration with Najee Harris is like, because the consistent volume that the Steelers gave him the ball, that's why he had the illusion of a productive fantasy player. But in reality, he was actually not that productive. There are better running backs to go out there with. Now, here's why I'm giving Najee Harris his last pass of his career. This is a make or break it year for his career and for me. There are 2 words. The only reason I'm giving him a pass. Do you know what those 2 words are?
Jim Harbaugh?
Actually, no, it's 3. It's 3, my bad.
Okay.
All right, it's Matt fucking Canada.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, it's very fair.
You can throw Arthur Smith in there too.
Actually, Arthur, well, I'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
So, for those of you who don't know, Matt Canada was the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator from 2021 to 2023 until he was fired before the start of this past season, and that is when Arthur Smith took over. Now, you could argue what was Najee Harris's best season because 2023, he put up some career highs in terms of rushing attempts per carry, which was like 4.3 compared to last season, which was 4.1. So barely any difference. I think it's widely regarded his rookie year, 2021, was his best year. But spending, 2 years in a terrible offensive system where defensive players are literally yelling at their offensive coordinator, it's all your fault after a loss going into the locker room, which is a real thing. Look it up.
It's true.
I am willing to give him a pass because exactly Jim Harbaugh, the Greg Roman offense, I can actually see this working out well for Najee Harris. But if it doesn't, he has no more excuses left because, as I said before, they made Gus Edwards look good. They made J.K. Dobbins look good. And I'm not saying those guys aren't, solid backs, but you cannot argue logically. They did not look better than they actually are. And Najee Harris, this is your one last chance to prove it. And I don't mean that just fantasy-wise. I mean that career-wise. Because if he cannot produce in this offense, well, guess what? You're going to get jettisoned out of LA so fast. Not only because they drafted Marion Hampton in the first round, but I don't know if you saw this. The Chargers signed a fascinating undrafted free agent at running back position. Did you see who this was?
I did not see who it was.
They signed Raheem Sanders, the running back out of South
Carolina, right?
And at first I was like, oh, God damn it. There's a third. But then I realized it was like, okay. Oh, good. Okay. You're not part of, that clan. So that's good. Raheem Sanders averaged almost 5 yards a carry for South Carolina last year and scored 11 touchdowns on the ground. So that tells me that the Chargers definitely have an insurance plan that if Najee Harris doesn't work out, they are ready to jettison you right off that roster. Because if you look at his contract, is just absolutely, stock full of all these options and just ways for them to get out of it. So This is truly, and again, this is like, if Najee Harris does not perform this year, he's done. I'm not saying he'll never get another shot in the NFL, but I don't think he'll ever get a shot at being this solid of a starter. So it's not only a make it or break it year fantasy wise. And okay, I know what people are like. All right, well, you're talking about his career a lot. What about his fantasy value? Right now, I'd rank him as a lower end flex option. And I think that it's hard to see him going undrafted, but I think if you're targeting him in the first 7 or 8 rounds, that's too early. but he is a fascinating bench ad to kind of see how that goes. It's kind of the same way we were talking about J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards last year, where, hey, and this time it's easier because it's take your gamble. Which one is going to get more carries? My guess is Najee Harris, because they probably don't want to run Hampton to the ground too early. But either way, I think this is Najee Harris's last chance to prove I am a starting capable NFL running back that can produce good, efficient. Those are the two big words: good, efficient runs for you, because that's not something he was doing in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the one thing that has Najee Harris, like as far as something going good for him, is that he's never missed a game in his career. So he's played 4 years with all the workload that he was getting in Pittsburgh.
They gave him a lot of workload.
He never missed a game. He never missed a game. Played all 17 games in all 4 seasons there, plus obviously the postseason games that they've been in. So yeah, this is sort of one of those situations where it's like, I don't think he's the long-term answer with Los Angeles, because that's why they drafted Omarion Hampton. He's a chipper option, plus he's more of a capable, long-term option for them in that backfield. Yeah, adding Raheem Sanders, I think that's a great addition as well. Just you got 2 cheaper running backs that can handle a heavy workload compared to Najee Harris. So it's like, I think this is just a situation for him to sort of just like, reestablish himself, like we talked about, just sort of that new scenery effect. She signed, I believe it's a 1-year deal, right, with the Los Angeles Chargers?
It is, yep.
So I think this is just a situation for him to, like, okay, let's just, be with the team here that I think can helpfully showcase my running skills maybe a little bit better than what I was able to do in Pittsburgh, a little bit more of a better offensive situation as well, compared to what they have going on with Pittsburgh with their uncertainty at the quarterback position, and some of their trades, obviously, with George Pickens no longer being part of the team, and they acquired DK Metcalf, which is like, I think it should be a lot more stable with the Chargers compared to the Steelers. And so Najee Harris, I don't think will be that lead back, but I think I brought this up before when we were talking about our fantasy rookies, as far as like, who saw their stock rise, who saw their stock fall. And I talked about Omarion Hampton. I think that's just the biggest thing is just it's going to hurt, is both those guys are just going to hurt each other. Whereas like Harris is going to hurt Hampton and vice versa. We're just like, who's going to be the lead back in a given week? I don't know. So that's why I agree with you, where it's like, it's hard for me to envision drafting Harris in one of those first 8 rounds. And of course, it's sort of the same thing with Omarion Hampton, but I think I may take a flyer more on Hampton because the potential is higher there, because like they want to see what they have with the rookie. So it's like they may give him a little bit more show towards the end of the season too. Like once we get to the second half of the season, okay, now you're accumulated to the offense, acclimated, and you're sort of used to how we're running things here. So it's like, I think that he may get more play in the second half of the season, and they may start to phase Najee Harris out, where it's like, we'll see that shift where it's like, we may see Najee Harris a lot more in the first half of the season, and then it'll sort of phase over into Omarion Hampton in the second half of the season. I can see that happening here. But yeah, if it doesn't work out for Najee Harris here, he's going to be 28 to start the 2026 season.
He's going to turn into journeyman, like I don't want to say Le'Veon Bell, because that's not a comparable situation, but like the type of like, we're like Todd Gurley's a Raven, like that type of thing. It was just like, oh shit, he's there, and it's just that's what he's going to turn into.
Yeah, so that's the very big thing for him that's going to work against him. That's like, if he doesn't find any success with the Chargers, that's just like, yeah, he'll just be that sort of supplementary piece to any backfield. But if he can sort of kill it with the touches that he does get, he could pick up with another team and possibly be in contention for a starting role somewhere else.
Well, and I think you're exactly on point with what you said about the, like, phasing in of Omarion Hampton, because, and it's not, again, a perfect comparison because this was due to injuries. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm always getting them mixed up. But I think the hot starter to the start of the season for the Chargers was Gus Edwards. And I was like, yes, I was right. And then Gus Edwards went down, and then J.K. Dobbins stepped in the second half of the season, and he got really hot. It might be reversed, but that is reversed. So J.K. Dobbins started hot. Gus Edwards, came on the scene. Again, not perfectly comparable thing, because one was due to injury. So I'm not like being like Najee Harris going to get hurt in week 6. I would never say that, unless it's Anthony Richardson, because apparently he needs too many breathers. But I do think that, the slow, like, phase in, phase out I think that is the Chargers I put long-term plan in quotes, because I think it's like their season-long plan. That would not shock me whatsoever if, Najee Harris, fumbles a ball twice a game in week 6, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, he went from 18 carries to 8. That's interesting. And so it's one of those, but with all that said, the reason I put him on this list is because just the way this Chargers offense works, I could actually say, I can't believe I'm about to say these words. I could actually see Najee Harris producing pretty well in this offense. Like that would honestly shock me all that bad if Najee Harris all of a sudden by like week 4 or 5 was like in the top, 7 or 8 of running backs, and everyone's like, what the shit? And it's just like, yeah, man, it's
very
weird.
possible.
It's weird. It's just one of those cases where you're just looking, you're like, yeah, I know you're not good. It's like the Patriots with Brady, where all these receivers were going off. It was like, I know Matthew Slater is not that good.
Yeah.
But he's still producing. And it makes no sense, but I'm just going to ride this weird rogue wave until it goes away. So I can also see that happening. It's like I said, though, that's what makes make it or break it year.
100% agree with this one. 100% agree with this one.
I
also have a running back.
Football cream. No.
I have a running back choice for my other make it or break it player for me this year. And this one hurts me, Tad. This one hurts me because this is a guy that I loved coming out of the 2021 NFL draft.
Oh, son of a bitch. We're doing this again.
This is a guy that just like,
let him go, man. Let him go.
It's hard to let it go, especially now with this new landing situation. This is the one here. This is
you gotta stop calling him at 2 a.m. He's already blocked your number. He filed a restraining order. He doesn't care. Just stop leaving flowers at his door.
Yeah, I have too much hope for him.
I know you do.
Thing. I have so much. There's so much promise for this guy.
That hope is why we love you.
So great, and he still has the potential.
He does not love you. No, he does no. He is not a nice guy. He does not love you because he keeps breaking your heart.
In case you haven't figured it out, I'm talking about Javonte Williams, running back with the Dallas Cowboys. So similar to Pitts, he was drafted in the 2021 NFL draft, except he was selected in the second round, number 35 overall. I mean, Tad obviously went on this sort of rant here, but just like, yeah, no secret. This is one of my favorite players coming out of that draft. I had such high hopes for him. Landing in Denver, very similar to Pitts. He had a very good rookie year. You thought he was going to be able to build off of that. He had 2 100-yard games during his span in his rookie year. He was tied with Melvin Gordon for most carries on the team with 203. He was also him and Melvin Gordon had 900 rushing yards in that season as well. Gordon only edged him out by 15 yards, 903 to 918 that rookie year. You also have to remember he had a very famous Melvin Gordon was out on a Sunday night football game against Kansas City Chiefs. He was absolutely able to game wreck in that game. A lot of people are like, okay, this is the coming out party for Javonte Williams. Unfortunately, though, very similar to Kyle Pitts, he got hurt that second year in 2022. He tore his ACL and LCL in his right knee in week 4, so he was out for all of 2022. The next season in 2023, he led the team in rushing attempts with 217, rushing yards with 774, and rushing touchdowns with 3. This was also the first season for Sean Payton and the first year of Russell Wilson for the Denver Broncos. So we all know how that season ended up going out for them. I think it was the team was in shambles as early as week 1 when they had that upset loss to the Seattle Seahawks in week 1. Then obviously the Broncos were able to bounce back in 2024, but for some reason, Sean Payton just was not a fan of Javonte Williams. He was going with Jaleel McLaughlin. We saw some Audric Estime as well. Just not giving Javonte Williams a lot of carries. Only had 513 rushing yards that season off of 139 rushing attempts, and he was healthy. He played all 17 games. So it wasn't even an issue of him being hurt anymore. It's just like for some reason just didn't fit Sean Payton's style. So he left in free agency because in the second round you only get a 4-year deal. So he left in free agency, signed a 1-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys. He will be the starting running back there. He does have some competition there with the veteran Miles Sanders coming over from the Carolina Panthers. They also drafted a rookie in the 5th round, Jaden Blue, so maybe he'll be in competition there. But I think it's Javonte Williams' backfield to lose. And this is, what I said, is very much a proven deal for him as far as make it or break it when it comes to fantasy as well as his career as well. Because if he can't sort of keep that starting role with Dallas where it's like they have nobody else to lead that backfield, I don't have much hope that this guy can ever become a starting running back in the league. And he's actually going to be younger than Najee Harris, Tab, because when he starts the 2026 season, he will only be 26. So it's like this guy has a lot of years ahead of him as far as being a capable starting running back in the league. If he has a big season with the Cowboys, they can either re-sign him and he'll get a big deal with them, or he can cash in free agency, get a big deal somewhere else. But I mean, yeah, this guy just unfortunately just hasn't seen the best luck when it came to his career in Denver. He started promising, just fortunately had the injury. Then he had Sean Payton in the shambles. How's Russell Wilson? That derailed his career here. Now in a new situation here with the Dallas Cowboys to potentially be the lead running back here. This is a good shot for him to sort of revitalize his career and be that premier back that I think he can be. But yeah, it's going to be very much just like, if it doesn't work out for him here in Dallas, then I don't think it'll ever work out.
I think, yes, I agree with you. It's the stakes we were, saying with Najee Harris, but much higher because, Najee Harris is such a big name. If I'm not mistaken, he was a first round pick, right?
Najee Harris was a first round pick.
Yeah. Yep. So I think just by, those standards alone, which, right or wrong, doesn't matter. We can discuss morality, but whatever. Najee Harris will land on an active roster somewhere next year, even if unless he's like god awful for LA, or if he suffers, God forbid, if he suffers some horrible injury. Javonte Williams is the type of player that if he doesn't kill it for Dallas this year, he's probably going to be an XFL player. And by the way, the Battlehawks are really, really good right now. 4-0 with Max Duggan. So Javonte, St. Louis, lovely in the spring. Fantastic. Go Battlehawks. Anyway, I am cheering for this guy. Shut up. I am cheering for this guy.
That's the only team that you have going for you right now. Out of all your teams, just like
welcome to St. Louis sports.
Put all your eggs into that basket.
Now the producer decides to join us. But no, I am
talking about the Battlehawks. This is not what we need to be talking about. Look at him. He's giving you a death stare too right now.
He actually is. He is very ready for those lights to go.
I don't want to hear Battlehawks on this show. He's like, stop it.
4-0 since Duggan took over. Just saying. But I know I am cheering for Javonte Williams because I do think there's a lot of untapped potential there. I think, like you said, it was a bad luck of the draw where you were like, oh, why are they playing this running back and this running back? And yes, I'm not saying their names because I can't really pronounce them. Is it Estime? Estime, so close. But like, why they just fit Sean Payton's system better?
Yeah.
Like you look at like a Deuce McAllister versus a Reggie Bush. One was very clearly more productive in Sean Payton's system than in the more traditional NFL system. So it really didn't shock me all that much when Javonte Williams wasn't really fitting in Denver because he is more of a up and down type of runner where Sean Payton likes to spread the field. Here's my main concern is that Dallas Cowboys backfield is cursed. Unless you have a star in that backfield, they do not produce a whole lot. Do you want to guess who was the Cowboys' leading rusher last season in terms of yards?
Rico Dowdle.
You are correct. It was Rico Dowdle. Now, that was your warm-up.
Okay.
Since 2005, only 3 Cowboy running backs have scored double-digit running touchdowns. Can you name all 3?
Double-digit rushing touchdowns?
So in the last 20 years, only 3 have scored 10 touchdowns or more on the ground.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes.
Okay.
That was a freebie. That's like the bingo thing at the center.
That's fair. The free space. That's what you're talking about there.
Yes.
So you said since 2005, right?
Since 2005. So again, last 20 years.
DeMarco Murray?
Oh, very nice. Oh shit, you're gonna ace this. Damn it.
I know Marion the Barbarian had some good seasons, but I don't think he ever scored double-digit touchdowns, so I'm not going to say him.
Okay.
Felix Jones also racked up a lot of yards, but I don't know if he scored double-digit touchdowns, so that's one I'm curious about. Julius Jones also had some good seasons for him.
Jesus. That's a throwback.
You know what? I think I'm going to say Julius Jones. Yeah.
Should have gone with your gut. Marion the Barbarian.
It was Marion the Barbarian.
It was Marion Barber in 07. But my point being, and I know this is where like I get like squeamish doing like a fantasy podcast because that's such anecdotal evidence. Like there's very little like statistical data to back that up of like, well, the past 20 years of such as Cowboys running backs, there's so many variables to include in that like, that's not a great way of saying it, but it's just one of these things where I it's a gut. And sometimes, this is kind of the fun of fantasy. Sometimes you have to go with your gut feeling. I don't see Dallas. I see a lot of what happened last year where Dallas is kind of running a very confused offense. Now this George Pickens trade throws everything in flux.
It does.
But if anything, that shows to me they're going to lean more on the air attack than anything else. But again, if only 3 Cowboys in the last 20 years have scored 10 touchdowns, statistically speaking, I'm probably going to win that bet. That, Javonte is not going to do that again. Now, is he? I think he's a fascinating waiver target. I think, depending on the matchup, that could be a really, really valuable player to target. But in terms of a draft, iffy. But going back to your point, or the point of this whole episode is make it or break it. Yeah, I'm with you. And that's why I'm struggling with, to talk about this, because I think he's going to break it. And I think his NFL career is going to be pretty toast because of that, which really sucks. I hope I'm wrong, because I think he is a talented player. But, if you had told me this time last year that Rico Dowdle was going to lead the Cowboys in rushing, I would have said you were insane. So who knows? But yes, I agree. If Javonte Williams goes, has a 600-yard, 3-4 touchdown season, he's not going to be invited on an NFL roster next year.
Now, obviously, touchdowns makes a huge difference when it comes to your fantasy running back, but I don't think it's the end-all, be-all when it comes to scoring. Okay, so, because if I were to ask you, Tad, Rico Dowdle obviously was the success for the Cowboys when it came to rushing the ball for them last year. If I had to ask you, where did he finish in PPR leagues? What do you think you'd say?
Full PPR?
Sure.
But you can't say sure. There's a huge difference.
I don't think it makes a huge difference here, but okay, I'll say full PPR. Yes.
Okay, full PPR in terms overall running back rankings. I'll go 12.
Lower.
See, okay, this is where it gets confusing, because it's lower, actually higher, or is lower like closer?
Rank is lower.
Okay, 18.
Lower.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, my whole point was that I think you guessed maybe a little too high. So it's he had a good season. He finished 23rd. He finished 23rd. So he's a top 25 running back when it came to PPR leagues last year. So it's if you think about that heading into the season, nobody probably
would. Yeah.
And so I think in your case where you say Javonte Williams, I don't know if he's going to go undrafted, he's sort of borderline in that case. It's I think naturally being the starting running back for a team, you're going to get drafted. So it's I'm not drafting him as my RB1. That's definitely not the case. Yeah. But I think I'm drafting him to my bench spot, because I think he's going to do enough where he could definitely throw some value as possibly that RB2 in flex situations or whatever. So I think he could possibly, even with the season that he possibly will have, he could still finish in somewhere in that top 25 range, which is very similar to what Rico Dowdle did. And Rico Dowdle only scored 2 touchdowns last year. But he did have 1,000 rush yards.
Trust me, that I know. I saw that. I was like, holy shit.
But he did have 1,000 rush yards. So that was a big thing. So it's you need one or the other. And so it's touchdowns is not end all be all. It definitely makes a big deal. But if you can sort of get the good yardage too to go with something touchdowns there, then that obviously boosts your total there. So
okay, but here's my whole problem with that is I think you're falling into the same trap you fell into last year. Especially since you asked me PPR. Is Javonte Williams' strength is not the receiving game. And who is Javonte Williams' backup? Miles Sanders, who is much stronger in the receiving game and actually was fairly productive for Carolina last year. So that's why I'm I agree that this is definitely a make it or break it year for Javonte. But if asked me to put all my chips on the table and just, red or black, kind of roulette, red being make it, black being, break it, I'm putting all my money on black.
Fair. But yeah, I think it's very safe to say that's if he doesn't make it with the Dallas Cowboys here, there's chances are of him finding a starting running back position in the league in the future, very slim to none, if that. So yeah, but those are some of our make it or break it candidates for this year. As we sort of talked about, this is sort of our final episode before we parlay into our head coaching series, which we do every year. So diving into how the head coaches will look as far as their new schemes, how they became head coaches, how this will affect your fantasy season as far as your draft strategy. So we're going to dive into all of that, hopefully the next coming weeks here with all those episodes there. But after that's over, that I think will definitely be a chance where it's we'll probably be around 4th of July, I think probably around there, maybe a little bit after that. Probably. But then we'll go very heavy with all of our fantasy discussion as far as we'll go into position rankings and we'll go into sleepers and busts and probably more make it or break it candidates and, just everything and anything in between. We'll be diving into all of that. How you can find out about that is hit us up on our social media handles. You got us on Twitter. You got me at UnderTheSide23. You got Tad at TadSide94. Got the show handle at The Decide Guys. And, of course, on Instagram at The Decide Guys as well. So like we talked about with those position rankings and sleepers and buzz, we'll be dropping graphics for all of that. So the only way you find those graphics is if you find it on our social media handles on Instagram, on Twitter. Tad does all the great posting with both of those channels for sure. But yeah, we'll be diving into all that content. If there's specific players that you want us to talk about when it comes to fantasy season, interact with us there. You can drop us YouTube comments as well. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so we're always up to date with our podcast in the video format. So you can drop us comments there. And make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, so you're always up to date in our audio sense as well, guys. But make sure you're supporting our parent network at LAFB Network because without them, there would be no us. Lots of great content coming from a lot of great content producers when it comes to the Rams and the Chargers and all of their offseason plans. And as they get ready for preseason and training camp and rookie camps and all this stuff, they got you covered all there. And of course, with the NFL season coming around the corner, the college football season is just around the corner as well, if not sooner, because they start 1 week before the NFL season begins. So yeah, they got you covered when it comes to the Bruins and the Trojans and all the madness with the transfer portal and Lincoln Riley's head coaching status and just everything that's going on with both the Bruins and the Trojans. They got you covered over there. But not only is it football anymore, they got you covered when it comes to the basketball. They got you covered with NBA with the Clippers and Lakers offseason plans. We'll have the NBA draft happening in about a month in July. So we got a month and a half or so until that happens. So they got your coverage there when it comes to who they're possibly targeting with their draft picks there. And of course, with baseball season right around in the middle of things right now, we've got about a month and a half before the All-Star break.
Oh my God. Where the hell did May go?
I know. It sort of just zipped by, right? So we got a month and a half to the All-Star break. So they got you covered with the Angels and Dodgers covered as far as everything happening with both of those teams as well. So big news coming from all three big sports there when it comes to the LAFB network there. But guys, to everybody who started supporting our podcast by listening to the podcast, by interacting with us on social media, by watching our videos on YouTube, by, interacting with us as far as all of our comments and YouTube comments and everything, and just any way and every way that you supported the podcast, we really just can't thank you enough.
Break me off a piece of that lumber tar. Lumber tar.
I don't think it's lumber tar.
Damn it. All right. Anyways, yes, you can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the LAFB network for certain podcasts. But if you can't find it on the website, you can definitely find it on the LAFB YouTube channel as well. Our podcast will always be there. And in fact, a little tease here, we actually may be reopening our own YouTube channel again. So stay tuned for some announcements there. See, that's why we had the beard, so we can do that. Sure. It's quite handy. That's why I grew mine back specifically so I can do that. But be sure, as Amir said, we keep up to the latest USC recruiting updates, the spring, I guess it's not even spring, the summer camp updates as well with the greatest USC analyst, Ryan Dyrud. And I guess Auro.
There it is.
Yeah. Whatever. But if you would like to listen to equally as good podcast, LA Confidential with Chauncey Talese, best friend of the show, amazing podcast, great football and popular culture analysis. It's been sending me so many great Simpsons memes the last couple days. I don't know if he sends those to you too, but it
of course he does.
It makes you laugh. I've never even I've seen maybe 10 episodes of The Simpsons. So even without context, it makes it that much funnier.
Oh yeah.
So just Homer's will make me laugh every time. Every guaranteed laugh every time. So, and look, if you want a guaranteed laugh, listen to LA Confidential because that will definitely make you laugh as well. So you can check that out again at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the LAFB YouTube channel, wherever you find us, you can find them. So please give them a listen because they are just, if not better than what we do. So thank you everyone again for listening. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and please stay safe, everyone.